Shabbat Shalom. Could I have everybody want to take your seats and you can sing with us a little bit? Hine Ma Tov. And I'm going to try and fix my microphone while Jonathan sings. We're really blessed to be able to have Jonathan Goldstein with us tonight so that you don't have to hear me do everything and tap dance on the pulpit, like everything. Hine Matov.
Check, check. There we go. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Shabbat Shalom. I'm so happy to be with you. I'm Rabbi Laura Scheinkoff, for those of you who I have not met, but I think that's very few. And I am joined by Jonathan Goldstein, who is blessing us this evening with his song leading skills. Save my voice a little bit. We are going to continue with OZ, which is not in your book, but I feel very confident that you'll be able to follow along. OZ, Pick your harmony. You can sing with Rabbi Laura or sing with me.
OZ, Zimrat Vayechi, Yeshua. OZ, Zimrat Vayechi, Yeshua. And I'd like to call up Debbie Gersh to light the Shabbat candles, which can be found on page 3.
Blessed God, let your light enter our souls and our hearts. On this Shabbat, we pray that you will grant us and our loved ones rest and renewal. May the light of these candles May the light of these candles drive out from among us all tensions and anxiety. Send your blessings to our children that we may walk in the ways of your Torah, your light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lechadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we continue with Lechadodi. And on the last verse of Lechadodi, we're going to turn and face the entrance to welcome the Sabbath bride, and we'll remain standing then for Baruch Hu. So please join us with Lechadodi on page 4.
Lechadodi,
Lecha lecha kala, B'nei B'nei
Shabbat Nekavela. Lechadodi, lecha kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. La 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 lechadodi, lecha kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Lechadodi, lecha kala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Zachor b'yiborecha, Yishmi'anu echad v'yichad, Adonai echad, Shmo echad, V'shem Tifereth v'letzi la 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 lechadodi, Mikra tekakala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Lechadodi, Mikra tekakala, B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela. Echad Shabbat, Katuv Necha. Makor Abraham Lerosh Mikanem Netzucha Shofar Aseh B'machshevati la 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 lechadodi Nekakala B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Lechadodi Nekakala B'nei B'nei Shabbat Nekavela Toreri Iba Orez Allah yichnig la 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 chadodi nekakala b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekavela lechadodi nekakala b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekavela Ro'i v'shalom aterepala gam b'simcha u'b'etzola toch emunei am segula boi kala la 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 chadodi mikali kakala b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekavela shachal chadodi mikali kakala b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekavela la 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 chadodi mikali kakala b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekavela
The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things, of space. On the Sabbath, we try to become attuned to the holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to creation of the world. Please join us with our call to worship.
La 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 la
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la,
la 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 la
ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Are you listening?
Oh, Baruch et Adonai, Amevorach. Baruch Adonai, Amevorach. Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. And we continue with Via Hafta. Oh, excuse me. We do not continue with the Via Hafta. I need a little bit of water, I think. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. Bachochma poteach sha'arim uvituna mishane itim. Thank you. Umachalif et hazmanim. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being and skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. We continue with Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shekelot Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Adonai
We continue with Via Hafta.
Lai, 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 yeah, lai, 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 lai.
I know, that's inappropriate, right? Oh, my goodness. I don't know what to do about that.
Huh,
Okay,
we're working on it.
why don't we turn off, this is off, right? Make sure that one's off. Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna just talk loud.
Okay.
When we gather together, often we do so to pray for people who are sick or remember people who have died. But what's really important is that we also remember what is good and what has happened that is good in our lives. As that is actually, one of the worst sins of all is to not recognize that. Sometimes we forget that. So let's take a second if anyone has any simchas that they would like to sort of announce to the community. Remind us that life goes on indeed. Any? Yeah. Debbie. So I think a lot of y'all know I'm very involved with adoption, and Tuesday, Tuesday is our first citywide fundraising event since pre-COVID and time co-chairing. And it's been tough work, and I've gone in Facebook when I get really crazy. I just put my messages to for all, just for one, adopt a lady. Darn, one of my great grandmothers, my grandmother, my husband, and mine.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really. Right, right. One of the most important Jewish American organizations there are, actually, oldest, one of the oldest. Yeah, all kinds of things, right? Any others? Yes. Oh, nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
That's great.
That's wonderful.
Any others? Yes. Wow, that's amazing. That's wonderful. Really wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, O God, ruler of the universe, who gave us life, who sustained us, and who allowed us to reach this moment truly. Amen. So, we continue with the Micha Mocha, which is on page 13, but I think many of you know it.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטע בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטע בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. הרב בניך, וידם לפני משה מרים, כאלי יענו ואמרו, כאלי יענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא עושה פלא, נורא עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
So I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but in every service, we go through the same cycle, which is creation and then redemption and then revelation. creation meaning like the beginning of time, right? That's what Shabbat celebrates, so we start over again. And then redemption, as in the redemption from Egypt, which we just sang about, this Micha Mocha, is after we crossed the sea, right? And then Revelation is the commandments that we were handed at Sinai. And actually, that's where we became a people, like a group that was sort of united under one set of laws and agreements, not just bound together by mutual trauma. So that's the part of the service that we get to now when we rise and we remember our ancestors, and we ask God to remember us as God remembered those ancestors. And we say, look, you know, they were there and they took this covenant and they agreed to it, and we are their descendants. And so therefore remember us as well, because all of Judaism really is that. It is an agreement between God and a group of God's people that we will sustain a story, commandments, rules, and laws, and that will we remember our history together. So we rise for tefillah, which can be found on page 15.
Na 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 na
Na
na
na
na
na Adonai. Na 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 Sfatai tiftach. Na 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na na Sfatai tiftach. Na na Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Na na Adonai. Na Sfatai tiftach. Na Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Hastelvot V'Imahot U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo B'Ahava Melech Chozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avram Bezrat Tzadam Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, samech noflim v'rofei holim, umatir asurim, umekayen emunato lishenei afar. Michamocha bal givurot, umidomeh Melech memid umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanat lahachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. I am a Jew because the faith of Israel demands no abdication of the mind. I am a Jew because the faith of Israel requires all the devotion of my heart. I am a Jew because in every place where suffering weeps, the Jew weeps. I am a Jew because at every time when despair cries out, the Jew hopes. I am a Jew because the world of Israel is the oldest and the newest. I am a Jew because Israel's promise is the universal promise.
I am a Jew because for Israel, the world is not completed. We are completing it. I am a Jew because for Israel, humanity is not created. We are creating it. I am a Jew because Israel places humanity and its unity above the nations and above Israel itself. I am a Jew because above humanity, image of the divine unity, Israel places the unity, which is divine. You may be seated. We take a moment for silent prayer.
יחיו לרצון אמרתי והגיון יחיו לרצון אמרתי והגיון ליבי לפניך יחיו לרצון אמרתי לרצון אמרתי והגיון ליבי לפניך Adonai
Tsuri.
Adonai Tsuri v'go'ali Adonai
Adonai Tsuri. Adonai Tsuri B'Goali. Inside your heart, just be inside your heart and see. What it means, what it means. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth
and
and
the
the
meditations
meditations
of
of
my
my
heart
heart
be kind,
be kind,
be true.
be true,
May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer.
And at this time, we take a minute to think of people who are in need of healing. On Shabbat, we don't go through all 19 benedictions, but we always ask for two things. One is peace, oseh shalom, and the other is for healing. People are going to be in the congregation, so sometimes we'll put it in between two aliyot and this when we're reading the Torah, because that was traditionally the time everyone was there. But for us, Kabbalat Shabbat is that time when many people gather together. And so right now we think about those who are in need of healing. And we also add Sammy Burko to our list. Please join us in the Misha Berach, which can be found in the prayer book on page 23.
Berach, Yavoteinu, Mikor habracha, Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom again. When I looked at this week's Torah portion, I actually, on Thursdays at the Emory Weiner School, where I work for most of my rabbinic life, we have a Torah service. And traditionally, the child who's having a bat mitzvah will read that week, and they'll give some of their Devar Torah. So, you know that seventh graders are not at the zenith of their maturity and intellectual powers. I'm not saying not all of them. I mean, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but usually the Divrei Torah are not, earth shattering or anything. I know it's going to surprise you Thursday afternoon in middle school. It's not like. Anyway, though, I was I picked up this child's Devar Torah to read it, because I shorten it a little bit, and I started reading it, and I thought, is this a seventh grader? I mean, seriously, is this a seventh grader? And he reminded me of a few things about this portion that I actually completely forgot. And he's an his Israeli parent, so he answers me like he's like an old man, like this, like, yes, Rabbi, like, of course. I'm like, it was hilarious, actually, just such an old soul, right? And I said to his mother, his parents come, and you always want to say something nice. It's not hard though. Sometimes it's you got to dig. Anyways, I leaned over and I said, this kid is very bright, and he's just, he's so lovely. And she said to me, he's been 40 years old since the day he was born. She's like, nice to meet you. He's 40. He was born that way. What I was thinking about, and what he pointed out in the Parsha, is that this is the first part of the book of Exodus. And it is the story of Moses, and it's the story that most of us are familiar with, right? But there's some details we forget. So just to refresh your memory, the Pharaoh, who did not know Joseph, so we are led to believe that between the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus, some time has passed, and the Israelites have become very numerous in the land of Egypt, and the Pharaoh is finding them to be a nuisance. And one of the edicts he puts in place is that all male babies Israelite babies should be thrown into the River Nile and murdered. And two midwives who are not Jewish refused to do that. And they saved young Moses's life. He wasn't named Moses, and he was put in a basket, and he was floated into the palace. And I'm telling you this because, well, I'll get to the part that the kid mentioned. He was raised in the palace, right? And if any of you are familiar with the story of the Buddha, it's actually a very similar tale. There's historians have a lot of theories about that, but he leaves the palace at some point when he's a young man, and he encounters something really troubling, which is the Egyptian taskmaster abusing an Israelite slave, and he strikes out against this Egyptian taskmaster, and he realizes that he can't go back, and he runs, and he ends up in Midian, and he marries the daughter of a Midianite priest. And we are led to believe that between that time and the whole burning bush incident, which is what we think about, a lot of us in this portion, or there's a lot of divrei Torah about that particular moment, this theophany. But what we forget is that by the time Moses sees this bush, right, and God tells him that he needs to go back and save the people of Israel, he's like, the Torah says he's 80 years old. So clearly he's lived a ton of life. Okay. And so not surprisingly, and I forgot how much time had passed, that this person actually, he's not really Israelite. I mean, he comes to find out that he is, but he hasn't lived that way. He really was raised as an Egyptian, right? Then he spent a big part of his adult life in Midian. What does he know about being Jewish, right? And so when he sees this bush that is not consumed, and God comes to him, which is called the theophany. I teach my students, right? It's a good word, vocabulary word. He says famously, after God says, go to the Israelites, he says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, said Moses to God, and how can I possibly get the Israelites out of Egypt? Basically, he's like the ultimate imposter syndrome, right? I mean, this happens a lot with our ancestors, that in fact, the people who are charged with the task of doing great things say, no, I'm very small, right? It's actually their humility that makes them great, I think. But he asks, who am I that I should go to the Pharaoh? And there's really two questions in that statement. There's one question is, who am I, right? And then the other is, am I worthy of going to the Pharaoh? Am I capable of doing this task? And God says, God doesn't answer the first one. God says, I will be with you. Great. Terrific. Still, who am I though, right? But I can understand the question on Moses's end, because who you are is really the context in which you come from. I remember years ago, I read this, very famous novel, All the King's Men. And there was one little portion in it, it's written by a poet. So of course it's like really long. And there's one portion in which the main character is driving from one place to another at night by himself in the car. And he talks about how, it's really nice to do that, because really between one place on the map and the other in this dark, there's really like nothing. You can be nobody. Because between one point where people knew you and expected certain things of you, right, in the context that you were defined in, and the other, which might be very different, you have this moment of nothing. Maybe we're defined by who we're around and what's expected of us in those contexts. And so God doesn't really answer him on that. And I can understand why he was concerned about it. Imagine being asked to go and be like the leader of a group that you barely knew anything about. And I get that a lot from students. A lot of times students, first of all, I've said it before, but I really hold to this philosophy that in the Jewish community, there's this concept that there is a varsity team of Jews, right? And that everybody wants to be on it or says that their grandparents was on it, right? There's like varsity Jews, JV Jews, and, there's this idea like every Jew thinks that they're not good enough. They don't know enough. They don't do enough. It's a thing. And so I guess that goes way back. That's deeply entrenched in our psyche. And Moses really is he's a perfect example of that. But when you come to a Jewish school or when you come into a Jewish context and you're supposedly Jewish, sometimes you feel like you should know more than you do. Right? This is a Jewish context. That means that I'm supposed to be whatever Jewish is, right? And that's the way Moses feels, I think. And I think rightfully so. What does it mean to save a group of people, to say, I'm one of you, but to not really have lived with them? Think about how complicated that is. You haven't actually faced the same discrimination that this group that supposedly yours is. You haven't had the same sense of community and warmth that they had, right? But someone says that that's who you are. That's a very confusing place to be. But the reason I bring it up is that I think Moses is an example of a moment that every person has in our lives all the time, which is this feeling of distance between the community that we're in and the person who we are. And I say it only because I think it's important to normalize it, because it's an existential kind of crisis that every human lives with, I think, is to feel not quite completely known. None of us can be totally known. I think Moses's crisis is extreme because of how he was raised and because of his gifts. But one thing that that God specifically says is that what matters is how he acts, not what he says he is, but what he does, right? And I remind students of this all the time. I mean, this is what we call like this growth mindset. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Educators talk about that. We never say you can't do it or you didn't do it. You haven't done it yet. I always say that. I haven't done it yet, or I don't understand it yet. Because if you define yourself as a person who failed at that thing or couldn't do that thing or didn't understand that thing, that would mean what's the point in continuing to try, right? But if you say not yet, that leaves the door open, or the possibility that part of your identity is a person that could accomplish this task. So God says, I'll be with you. Go do it. You can do it. You'll figure it out basically as you go along. And I love that, because I will tell you that when I went into rabbinic school, I did not take the typical path. 100% I was the outlier. In fact, I had a fellowship that took me through school, and during the interview, they said, it was a heavily Orthodox kind of slanted foundation, and there were all men in the room. It was like right out of a movie. It was like a long marble table with like men that I came in, and he was looking at my transcript and he's like, why'd you study Italian? Like, you don't even know Hebrew. Like, why are you here? Right. And so I very much felt like a little bit of an imposter, but I had to go back to why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I did well in rabbinic school. Like, I had a lot to offer my classmates. I know I did. And I know that it was because I came a little bit from the outside. I wasn't a graduate of the youth group camp movement who, just naturally moved right into rabbinic school. And that was okay though. But I spent a lot of years feeling like an imposter. And instead of leaning in to the things that made me unique, which is actually what all of our superpower is. So Moses is the most wonderful example, I think, of somebody who is deeply doubtful and flawed. And ultimately, that's what makes him such a wonderful leader and such a courageous human being, is that we get to watch his growth over time. Shabbat Shalom. Just a few announcements. The weekend of February 17th, my birthday, CSK is excited to host our artist in residence, Robbie Saslow. And we'll have a few events starting on that Friday evening, concluding on Saturday evening. Robbie's weekend will continue on Sunday, February 19th. We do Yom Limud, which is the Federation community learning event. And this year, I believe Yom Limud is at Beth Israel. Okay. It's a great event. It's awesome. Yom Limud, if you've never been, you should come. Save the Date Spirituality Retreat at the Margaret Austin Center with Rabbi Scott and Ann Friedman on March 17th through 19th. More information is forthcoming. There is a kosher chili cook-off happening on Sunday, March 19th at Beth Yeshurun, and we're looking for volunteers to join our team. We have like a synagogue team, so someone's got to pull their weight for the CSK team. For more information, please see Tiffany. And next Friday, January 20th, Shabbat services will be read by Rabbi Scott and accompanied by Kelly Dean at the Murfish Teen Center. Same time, different place. Any other announcements that I'm missing? Yes. Remind me, I have tons of Beatles costumes from a thing at school, like the glasses. I didn't know that was our theme. I'm all ready. I got a Sergeant Pepper. Like, seriously, I have all the outfits. Please rise for the Aleinu, which is on page 24. Do you want me to lead or you want? Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit kula ser bereshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kai, v'goraleinu k'chol ha'adama. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'odim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom ha'hu. Yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. We take a moment to remember those who've died at this season in years past and those who have recently left us. I'll go around the room if you would like to add a name to our Kaddish list. And we rise to join mourners, and together we recite the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirateh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi Sham Rabba min varach le'olam ame'amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitchadar v'yitchaleh v'yitchalal shmei d'kudisha b'rechu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram b'yama v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. We say together, amen. And we're going to close with Lord, Prepare Me, which is in the beginning of our prayer book, if you would like to follow along.
ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם ואנחנו נברך יד מעתה ועד עולם. Lord, prepare me.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true.
With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true.
With thanksgiving,
I'll be a living sanctuary for you. And if you Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzav banu. V'shavcha v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Yu yom tehila lamikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'tavas kodshecha, v'yachadu hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. B'tei avon, Shabbat shalom. Thank you to Jonathan for helping accompanying tonight, and I wish you a very good week. Shabbat shalom.
There was a
We're
delay.
here all week.
Yeah.